It's time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lipman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping, to crying, to potty training, to choosing a preschool, and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lipman.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever in the world you might be. Thanks so much for tuning in to Baby and Toddler Instructions this morning. It is already January 25th. Can you believe it? We have a live show today. And if you have a question, a comment, you can always call us at 877-864-4869. I have a wonderful guest. And he'll be with us in just a bit. His name is Keith Wallace, Ph.D., and he is a true expert and the author, along with Frederick Travis, with a book called Dharma Parenting, Understanding Your Child's Brilliant Brain for Greater Happiness, Health, Success, and Fulfillment. And it helps you raise happier kids if you know what kind of brain your child has. I can't wait to talk to him because it's so interesting. I never actually heard of this, so if you didn't, you're going to learn something too. And I love having my guests because I do learn so many things. Sharing their expertise is so wonderful. But first, recalls. There was one recall this week. The RH Baby and Child recalled mobiles. The wheels on the mobile's hanging cars can detach and fall, posing a choking hazard to young children. Well, that's not safe. Anyway, I put the contact information on my website already at mybestparentingadvice.com. If you go to recalls, you will find the 800 number. You will find the websites. And as I always say, excuse me, if you have something that's been recalled, please don't try to fix it. Call the number, go to the website. You know, sometimes they will give you a refund. They'll give you something to repair, whatever it is. Just don't try to finagle it yourself. We got to keep our little ones safe at all costs. Also, interestingly, I don't know if you heard this, there were some new infant sleep guidelines issued by the American Academy of Pediatrics. It said that it comes from breastfeeding, lactavists, and fertilizers, attachment parentings, and anti-helicopter ones. It's not enough to keep babies fed, rested, and changed. They need to learn grit and sign language. Wow. It says when the American Academy of Pediatrics recently issued new infant sleep guidelines highlighting a recommendation that babies sleep in their parents' room for at least 6 months, but ideally a full year, some parents despaired. And boy, I get that. If you have a baby, you know they're noisy. Babies make noises. They grunt and they gurgle and they move around a lot. You know, like us, they change position too, but on their backs. And what it said is the Academy said that sharing a room could cut babies' chance of dying in their sleep by up to 50%. Suffocation and strangulation, sudden infant death syndrome, known as SIDS, kills 3,500 babies a year in this country. And since the back to sleep, without any loose bedding, it did cut the deaths by 53%, which is great. The back to sleep, always put your baby to sleep on his or her back. It's so much safer. And if they turn on their side, well, I have 3 books. Help My Baby Came Without Instructions, More Help My Baby Came Without Instructions, and Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions. Little plug there. And I have a chapter on how to put your baby in the crib on his or her back. Also, you know, if you have a question, I am not going to read you this whole article, but I will say part of it just did say that if you're sleeping with your baby in your room for a year, then you might have sleep deprivation, and that's not safe either. You have to go in the car. You have to take care of them. Sleep deprivation is also not safe. So my suggestion to you is talk to your pediatrician. These new guidelines came out a few months ago. And, you know, you don't want to be sitting up all night looking at your child, waiting to see if they're going to stop breathing. God forbid, they're not. So talk to your pediatrician about these new sleep guidelines. I know many, many parents have their babies in their rooms the first 3 or 4 months, and I did that. So you know what? Whatever makes you comfortable And again, if you don't know what to do, talk to the pediatrician, because these were new sleep guidelines. I don't know how many studies they've done on them. And again, as I always say when I do a study, take it with a grain of salt and do some more research if you're not sure. Also, I have been in this baby toddler field for over 35 plus years, and I've helped over 1,000 families with their babies and toddlers, non-medical issues. And I like to share some tips from my own book. So today I am going to share tips from my chapter in Help, My Toddler Came Without Instructions, a chapter called Toddlers Gone Wild. And sometimes they do go a little wild. So just a couple things. Your toddler's happy, playing with blocks, having a great time, and all of a sudden they pick up a block and wham, they throw it across the room and hit their older sister. This is a toddler. You know what? Toddlers are learning. They're little sponges, and they're just trying to continue to learn. So a couple things. First of all, if you have a toddler, routine, set up routines. Feeding routines, and I know Dr. Keith Wallace is going to talk about this as well. Have a routine, a sleep routine, an eating routine. If your toddler, when you give your toddler a snack, I like to set up that routine that they sit on their booster seat, or if they're still in a high chair, don't let them walk around eating. You're letting them know it's time to eat. We sit down to eat. We do not walk around with our sippy cups, with our Cheerios. So routine is so important. If you want to have your toddler get ready to go someplace with you or take a bath, I love using the kitchen timer. Turn the timer on and even let them help you with their little hand turn the timer, one with a ringer, not the ones that are going to show, what time it is. They can't read. The old-fashioned little white timers, have them set it for 1 minute, 2 minutes. They can't tell time yet. And say, as soon as this rings, it's time for us to take a bath, or it's time for mommy to put your shoes on. Also, one more tip. You know what? If your toddler is older and she keeps asking you why, and they do, because again, they're wonderful little learning human beings, turn it around and ask them, why do they think? And you'll be amazed at the answers you get. Toddlers are so much fun. They're all so much fun, but anyway, those are just a couple tips from my books, which are available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Audible if you don't want to read. You want somebody to read to you, which is great. And also go to my website. Anyway, so that is what I wanted to share with you today. So let me tell you a little bit about my guest before the first commercial break, because we have a lot to talk about. His name is Robert Keith Wallace, and he's a pioneering researcher on the physiology of consciousness. His research has inspired hundreds of studies on the benefits of meditation and other mind-body techniques. Dr. Wallace's findings have been published in Science American Journal of Physiology, Scientific American. He has a BS in physics and a PhD in physiology from UCLA. And also he's conducted postgraduate research at Harvard University. And he is the founding president of the Maharishi University of Management in Fairfield, Iowa. And he and Frederick Travis, a world-renowned neuroscientist who discovered brainwave patterns in children and young people that correlate with moral reasoning, happiness, emotional stability, and academic performance. The two of them wrote this wonderful book called Dharma Parenting. And I have to say, this is the most fascinating book. It's Dharma Parenting, Understand Your Child's Brilliant Brain for Greater Happiness, Health, Success, and Fulfillment. And, I can't wait to talk to him because, again, and I say this every time I have an author on the show, I have so many pieces of paper in this book with questions and interesting things I want to talk about. So, first of all, welcome to the show, Dr. Keith Wallace. Thanks for being here this morning. How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much, Bye.
Before we go, we're going to have a commercial break in just a bit, but would you tell my listeners, what is Dharma? What does Dharma mean? That's D-H-A-R-M-A. What does that mean?
Dharma is this wonderful word that's throughout the East, and it has this very kind of diverse meaning, but the way we used it is just as the path of life. what's the best path of life that will bring you the greatest happiness, success, and fulfillment. And we feel, that's the job of a parent, to guide their child on that path of life. Each child will have their own dharma. They'll have their own path, but it's our duty and our joy to help send them on that journey.
Well, your book is so interesting, and, I'm just looking even at the first page, which obviously has a piece of paper in it and things. I don't like to write books, so I have little stickies. What you say is Dharma is different at different ages and for different children. What about adults? I know we're going to talk about toddlers and babies here, but what about adults? Does our Dharma change as we get older, or do we have a specific kind of Dharma?
I think, for all of us, it can change. It just depends on what sort of phases you go through in your life. Some people might start as I have a daughter who started as a mom, and then after that, she ended up becoming an executive at Tesla. So who knows what the path you might go on. I have another daughter that's a master's degree in counseling, and she started off with a master's degree in writing. So it has a lot to do with kind of all the changes we make in our life that bring us greater happiness and fulfillment. And yes, it can change for adults.
That's pretty interesting. So you can pass my name on to your daughter at Tesla. When's that new one coming out? But this isn't a car show, even though I'm in Arizona and the Barrett-Jackson car show is going on. And boy, it's crowded here. And, not to get off the topic, we're going to have a commercial in 1 second. But I have to tell you, it is 34 degrees in Arizona this morning. And I am feeling bad for everybody that has come in from a snowy place to look at these wonderful, expensive cars at the Barrett-Jackson car auction here. Pretty interesting. Sorry, guys. I hope you brought jackets. So... because it's supposed to be a little warmer here this time of year, but our weather's kind of crazy. Anyway, when we come back from our commercial break, I am going to talk in length to Dr. Keith Wallace, the author with Frederick Travis of Dharma Parenting, and we're going to learn all about our brains. I thought we had one kind of brain, and we're going to learn all about the different types. It is so awesome. I can't wait to talk to you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these. If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore, discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com. This is the TogiNet Radio Network. Radio with a cutting edge.
It's words you never heard.
Have you heard about Mel and Joy Schwanke, a Nebraska couple that have worn matching outfits for the last 35 years? Apparently, they have over 140 matching outfits, all custom-made, which typically match her dress with his tie. The couple is a match made in heaven. Neither one of them can remember the exact date they started this quirky tradition, but they both contend it's one of the elements that have held their marriage together an impressive 65 years. What do you call a marriage between well-matched people? Nomagamosis. Mr. and Mrs. Schwanke say that Velcro connects them because they do everything together. If you like doting on your wife with excessive fondness, you would be uxorious. And a woman who is excessively devoted to her husband is meritorious.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. Today is January 25th. I can't believe it. And we have a live show. I am here with my wonderful guest, Dr. Robert Keith Wallace, who wrote Dharma Parenting with Frederick Travis. And we're going to talk all about your child's brain. If you have a question or a comment, call us, 877-864-4869. I love callers. Anyway, we were talking about what Dharma was. What inspired you to write this book? How did you come up with it and say, wow, you know what, everybody's brain is not the same?
Well, the knowledge for a lot of this book comes from a very beautiful tradition in India, which is called Ayurveda. And for thousands of years, they've been sort of looking at people from a personalized viewpoint. Modern medicine is coming to this understanding now. We now have what's called personalized medicine. But we look at the DNA and we look at the genetics, and then we try to tailor drugs and things for people. They did this, long time ago. They had their own system of analyzing people. And the interesting thing is modern science has actually verified, there have been some really interesting studies which showed that this identification of these different types in Ayurveda actually has a very particular type of validation from the genetic analysis. So they knew something a long time ago that we're only discovering now, and that is that we are all different, and you really, really have to understand these differences. In order really to be a good parent, it's critical to understand it. I think most parents intuitively get it. They know one kid's different from another. One of my boys, I'd have the two boys sit at the table, and one would eat so fast that the food would just disappear. You didn't even know where it was. And the other hadn't even started yet. So I think, we know this, but it's nice when it's been systematized and done very nicely for us.
Well, your book really explains it. It's so well organized, especially for somebody that doesn't know much about this. Let's talk a little bit about the different brain types and body types.
Good. Okay. Well, again, this is something that anybody can do themselves. If they go to the dharmaparenting.com website, there's a little quiz on there. One for yourself and one for your child. It's absolutely free, and you get a 4-page PDF report from it, and it kind of summarizes a lot of what I'll say. So it's completely accessible to everyone. And you take this little questionnaire, and it asks you very simple questions that have to do with kind of a little bit about your physique, a little bit about your digestion and lifestyle, and a little bit about your emotions and mind. And from that simple questionnaire, you can determine whether a person is one of these three types or natures, as we call them. And the first one is the Vata type. You have to excuse the words. We want to acknowledge the system, so we're using the original words, but Vata, which is V-A-T-A, it just means that kind of person. Often they're a little slimmer when they're a child. They're very creative, very quick learners. They're children who are always enthusiastic, always creative. When they get imbalanced, though, they can become nervous, they can become anxious, a little oversensitive. Their eating and digestion gets erratic. So you have to kind of do the things to keep them in balance, and we can talk about those later. The next type is what's called a Pitta type, Pitta. And the Vata kind of stands for wind or air. Pitta stands for fire. And these kids are the ones that are just a ball of energy. They're physically strong. They are very oriented towards a purpose. They want to get something done, they get it done. They can, if they're imbalanced, get irritable and lose their temper. They really like to be on time. They're often kind of good leaders of the little children's group, leading everybody around. And, when they get older, they can become quite good athletes and quite good at all kinds of different activities that are goal-oriented. Now, the last type is the Kapha type, and that's Kapha, Kapha, and they have a slightly different type of brain processing. They tend to be much more thorough. They're slower. The Vatas are really quick. They just pick up information quickly, learn quickly. Kaphas are a lot slower, but the Vatas can forget things. They can move from one thing to another and forget. Kaphas just never forget. They have just amazing memories. They're a little bigger, sturdier, slower metabolism. It's a little harder for them to lose weight. They're generally very calm, very good-natured, get along with everyone. When they become imbalanced, though, they can withdraw and get quite stubborn. So, you can have a child, one child that's just totally willing to do anything new, and the other child that's just not going to do it right away. It's going to take a long time before you convince them to eat this new food or try this new activity. So those are the three basic types. And, of course, not anybody, to be a pure type is really unusual. Almost everyone is a combination. They have a little Vata, a little Pitta, a little Kapha. It's that kind of mixture that, makes up all the diversity in life. So you can have a child who's normally quite Pitta, very energetic, but they might have a little Kapha and they might like to sleep a little bit later. So, the quiz, the online quiz, gives you 7 basic type combinations, and that's really kind of the easiest way to assess it. We sort of see this as some genetic predisposition where the brain gets wired up in a certain fashion. So some people's brains are wired for being artists, being very creative. They have just a natural inclination to move quickly, to assimilate information quickly. And other kids' brains are wired for a more thorough analysis of everything. And so those tendencies are there right from birth, really. It's amazing how you can see these things right from birth. And then, of course, how you parent allows them to develop these qualities. And no one is better than the other. They're all good, and they all bring about marvelous, wonderful types who, in a family, you often have combinations, and kind of that's life. You can often have complete opposites. You can have a Pitta man, very fiery, strong, and a Vata, extremely feminine, sensitive woman. And, they get along perfectly. It's just you have to appreciate who the person is. It's like you have to appreciate your child, who they are, and let them grow up in their natural way.
So I have a question.
Sure.
You have a newborn, and the mother's excited, dad's excited, and you go home from the hospital, and then they're really nervous. Because you're saying the brains are wired a certain way, let's say your child is a Kapha body type, but you're really nervous around them. Do you change it?
No, you don't really.
The way the child reacts to you, does it change if you have a nice, calm baby, but you're so nervous and you're constantly showing him everything in the room and holding and, all of that stuff? What happens with the wired brain type if it's a calm?
Well, it's kind of nature versus nurture. So there's a natural tendency for them to have that more calm nature, it's certainly possible for you to upset it. More in the moment rather than long term. Their brain is still going to be sort of wired for being more thorough and more calm. That's, just the way the DNA is set up in them. But of course, every experience we have in life changes our brain. Every experience. And parenting is the most profound, most powerful influence on the wiring of the brain. Because those circuits that are laid down when a child is young are massively important for the rest of their life. We have, 100 billion neurons in the brain, but they're not wired together. A child going from age 0 to 3 has 24 million connections made every minute.
Wow.
It's unbelievable what's going on. Some of these are genetically guided. Some of them are very much guided by the environment. So, we know that kids that are brought up and they're abused and they're brought up in either, with the wrong attention or no attention, we know they have problems. It's very, very clear. We know that kind of parenting can change their brain. We know that they respond differently to stress than other kids. We know that they can have all kinds of learning disabilities. So, yes, there's no doubt about it. The early experience of a child will change their brain.
Well, you know what? I don't mean to interrupt you. We're going to break for commercial, but I am sitting here while you're saying this, and I'm thinking about my grandson. He's 20 months old, and I'm seeing him in my head how he goes from one thing to the next thing. When you're talking about how many things happen in a minute, it's just it's so amazing, and I'm so happy you're on the show explaining this because, I just look and how many times have we said, boy, I wish I had the energy my toddler has, or I wish I had all this energy. And it's just amazing because they're little sponges. And then you see the other types that like to sit and color or, play with a toy, a truck, a doll, whatever. This is just so interesting. So when we come back, I want to talk some more about the different types and how do you know what to do? Are there certain things you should do after you figure out what type your child is? Anyway, Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, oh, I need you. It's words you never heard.
Do you ever get nervous riding in an elevator because you're afraid the cable might snap? It's entered my mind more than once. According to Elevator World magazine, on the rare occasion a cable breaks, the car won't plunge to the bottom. This is because elevators have as many as 10 cables holding them up, each capable of supporting a fully loaded car. Sometimes I feel a little mischievous in elevators. Next time you're feeling like a rapscallion, try one of these little jokes. When there's only one other person in the elevator, tap them on the shoulder and then pretend it wasn't you. Push one of the buttons and pretend it gave you a shock. Or maybe start a sing-along. What's a word for a person who thinks he's funny but no one else does? Witzelsucht.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's words you never heard.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in a lighthouse? Sounds romantic, but could you go without the internet, HBO, cell service, and running water? Sally Snowman, the lighthouse keeper at Boston Light, says it's worth it for the feeling she gets when she sits outside by the railing and takes in the view with her morning coffee. What's the study of lighthouses called? Ferrology. Of course, living in a lighthouse comes with a great amount of responsibility when fog or rounce, robble, hobble, the tumult of thunder comes along. Wickies is a nickname given to early lighthouse keepers who spent a great deal of time trimming the wick on the lamp in order to keep it burning brightly. Manning a lighthouse is not for diddle-dum-doos. That's a word coined in 1893, meaning folks without energy.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I'm here with my wonderful guest, Dr. Robert Keith Wallace, and he is the author of Dharma Parenting, Understanding Your Child's Brilliant Brain for Greater Happiness, Health, Success, and Fulfillment, which he wrote with Frederick Travis. And they do have brilliant brains. We all do. So we are talking about the different types of brain and body types. So let me ask you, once you establish what type you are, and Dr. Keith said you can go to his dharmaparenting.com and take this little test that will help you determine for yourself or for your child what type they are. How do you know what to do? Because I'm looking, the different types of brain types and body types. You talk about certain snacks they should have and certain things maybe they shouldn't have. They'll do better.
Yeah. Well, there are certain key things to help each type, like the Vata type, the super creative, the artist, the musician, the ones that are the quick learners. They need routine. It's interesting. They don't like routine. They like to, do everything different and, try everything. But routines are super essential for them because that gives them stability. And, as a parent, if you're in balance, if you can, put up that chart on the wall and it shows exactly what they're doing each day, that just gives them the ability to relax and be creative because they know that, each part of the day is going to be handled in the appropriate way. They don't have to become nervous or anxious about it. And for them also, there are certain, types of foods that are better. They prefer warm drinks compared to cold drinks. They often snack throughout the day rather than, big meals. They're kind of grazers rather than consumers. They have certain characteristics. They're going to learn something quickly, but you have to, be aware that they can forget easily too. So it's just kind of that routine is the number one thing for them. For the Pitta types, the number one thing for them, and also for Vata, I've got to say, rest. They're sensitive. So if you put them, if you take them out to a shopping mall and they get all excited, it's going to be hard to get them to sleep at night. For them, sleep is very, very delicate, and they need to shut down all stimulation. They need to, have a warm bath, have some nice essential oils. They're the ones that are the hardest to get to sleep at night. The Pittas now, they're quite different. They have a lot of energy. They pretty easy to get to sleep. They might wake up at the night because they've got so much energy. For them, the biggest problem is anger. They really can get irritable, angry, lose their temper if you do one simple thing wrong, and that is you don't feed them on time. If you've got too many things going on, you're out shopping, you're doing something, and they don't get their lunch on time, it's just like a switch in them. Suddenly the fire starts to burn, and boom, they become irritable, temper tantrums, and, all of a sudden you're into putting out fires rather than just moving them along. So for them, it's really important they have their meals on time. And also for them, they can get overheated. They're much more susceptible. If you've got a house, the Vatas like to turn the heat up. They are a little cold most of the time. They like heat. The Pittas do not like heat at all. They want the air conditioning on. They get overheated. They can get angry. And then you have the Kaphas. And the Kaphas, they're so easygoing. You usually don't have a problem. But it's kind of, the routines are almost the opposite for them. They love routines. If they had it their way, everything would be fixed. It would all be perfect. It would all be done exactly the same way. And so for them, you actually have to mix it up a little bit. You have to kind of ensure that they get off the couch, they get outside, they do some activity, they actually engage more and have a few creative activities. So for them, you really have to. And also for them, time is a factor. They take longer to get up in the morning. They love sleep. They love eating. You got to just give them a little more time to get up in the morning, a little more time to finish their meal, a little more time to get out the door for school. And you just have to plan that ahead of time so that rushing them doesn't work very well. They get stubborn, they get resistant, and they pull back. But if you give them the time, everything goes smoothly. So the book is filled with lots and lots of tips for each type, and they really do help. They make a big, big difference.
Well, here's a big question that I get a lot. What do you do when my child has a tantrum? And the fifth tool of parenting, managing meltdowns and cultivate behavior. Do you have a couple quick tips to help parents with the meltdowns besides walking away going, do you know whose kid that is?
We've all had that. We all know what it's like, that's for sure. I mean, I've got 4 kids and 6 grandchildren. It's definitely there. And with electronic games, it's even worse. Oh, my God, do they get attached to those electronic
Yeah.
Try to pull them, you get into real trouble. It's, you have to, again, recognize that something's going on in their brain. They've gotten themselves out of balance. And so they're in a state out of balance, and you're not going to be able to talk to them. You're not going to be able to reason with them when in that state. So the first thing you got to do is check in with yourself and the child. Are you angry? Are you upset? Are they upset? You just got to kind of look at the situation. And, of course, if they're having a temper tantrum, hopefully you're not having one. Otherwise, it's really impossible. But you need to be the adult. You need to be the parent. And then, the first thing you've got to do is comfort your child. There's just no way around it. It's one of those situations where you can change their brain state faster than any way just by giving them a hug. I mean, sometimes that's all it takes. But if they've gone too far, if they're too far out of balance, and usually it's the pitta that gets out of balance, the fires are burning too hot, then you've got to change their brain state. And, there are all kinds of techniques. I'm sure you're a great expert in this, but, whether it's a timeout, whether it's a distraction, whatever you can do to switch their brain state at that point. For a pitta, it may be as simple as giving them, you're in a supermarket, they're screaming. It may be as simple as giving them, a health bar to eat, something that will just, maybe they're hungry. You didn't feed them. They need food, and that can do it. Then, of course, as they get older, you've got to give them choices. You've got to, once you are able to communicate with them, then, give them the choice. You want to stay here and continue to shop, or do you want to go home? And if you get to that point, that's a lovely point because very often they'll make the right choice. As they get older, especially if they don't make the right choice, they're screaming, continue with a temper tantrum, you've got to have consequences. And, consequences are something that are best worked out in family meetings. Obviously, if the child's very young, that won't happen. But as they get older, if you can have family meetings and work out, okay, you throw this or you do that, these are the consequences. For a young toddler, that doesn't really work because their reasoning ability is not really there. But
Right.
Finally, these are what we call our 6 C's. Finally, in the end, you have to recognize that you're their coach. You're basically their life coach. You're the one that is going to teach them how to get out of these situations. And when you come at it with that attitude, you know that it's just not a momentary thing. This is a life thing. What you're doing is you're coaching them for the rest of their lives, and you're creating avenues for them to take the high road rather than the low road. A kid whose brain state is disturbed, it's like you're listening to the music from Jaws. It's just they're scared, they're upset, it's all emotional. If you can switch the brain state to the high road, it's like, you're listening to some lovely song. Suddenly the whole thing, the atmosphere has changed. They can reason again. They can get control of their lives. So these are some of the devices we use, and they're a little different for each type, and we explain how it's different for each type in the book.
It's interesting because you started by saying the one thing that's so important is to check out where you are. This is really funny. My daughter will probably kill me for sharing this, but I was talking to her last night, and my 20-month-old grandson figured out how to open the front door while we were on the phone, and she had a very hard, stressful day. She's got a cold, and she was stressed, and it was really interesting because I could hear her getting so upset about this. And she stopped, and she calmed down, and, she couldn't change the door handle right that second, so she put 2 gigantic water bottles. They have a water machine in front, so he couldn't open the door. But as soon as she checked herself out and realized, it was her tiredness, and of course she could redirect him, because you can redirect a 20-month-old pretty easily. Yeah. It all worked out. And so many times we don't check out ourselves. We immediately get upset with the other person. The other thing that you made me think about, especially with the pitta types, all I could think of was they're hungry and angry at the same time. So, you know what? Listen to Dr. Keith and to me, and take food with you whenever you go out. It's so important to have healthy snacks with you. Especially if you're not in the grocery store, even if you are, to find the right aisle with the right snack, and then they want everything. So many times your little ones are hungry, and they can't tell you they're hungry. They have all this energy, and they need to be fueled. So anyway, some great tips. We are going to go to our last commercial break in just a few seconds, and when we come back, I am going to ask Dr. Keith his favorite parenting tip. I'm sure he has many, and then we'll talk a little more about his book. So stay with us. It's called Dharma Parenting. Understand your child's brilliant brain for greater happiness, health, success, and fulfillment. And boy, the brain is so interesting. I'm so excited you're on the show. I'm learning so much. We'll be right back.
Okay.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these. LinkedIn. It's a great tool and a great way to do business in today's social media-driven world. And Carol McManus is the LinkedIn Lady with the LinkedIn Lady Show. Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern on allbusinessradionetwork.com. The LinkedIn Lady Show is designed to inform, inspire, and educate businesses. Every social media site has a specific demographic, personality, and purpose. And the LinkedIn Lady will interview a variety of guests, such as business owners who can showcase their business and talk about how they use social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, and of course, LinkedIn. For more on Carol and the show, check out her website, LinkedInLady.com. As trends change and new applications become available, the LinkedIn Lady Show will bring that information to you in an easy-to-use, fun, and engaging way. Every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the LinkedIn Lady Show with Carol McManus on allbusinessradionetwork.com.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, broadcasting quality programming to the world.
It's words you never heard.
A few years ago, some fishermen off the coast of Italy discovered some pottery along with fish in their nets. Divers were called out and discovered an ancient Roman ship whose galley, or caboose, a nautical term for kitchen, was extremely intact. Some of the food uncovered on board was pickled fish, wine, oil, and grain used to make the ship's biscuits, otherwise known as dandy funks. It is thought the 2,000-year-old boat was probably on its way to Spain when it sunk and was covered by layers of mud, baggy wrinkles and all. Baggy wrinkles are another name for the ship's ropes. The mud protected the ship from wear, explaining why the leftover food on board was still in such good condition. We land lubbers may not be familiar with leftovers on the sea, but we are familiar with leftovers in our kitchen.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. We are up to our last part of the show. It goes so quickly. I'm so excited to have Dr. Robert Keith Wallace with us. We're talking all about your child's brain, and boy, is it interesting. But before we go any further, you have 4 children, you said, and lots of grandchildren. What are your favorite parenting tips?
Well, this is going to seem a little strange to everyone, but in our book, we use an acronym, Dharma, so we have, different pieces of advice for each letter. So D means, discover your child's brain body type. And the H is very interesting. It means heal yourself. And you were talking about this before with your daughter, how, you check in with yourself and see where you are. And I really believe what you said is right. Fatigue is the greatest enemy for parents. And it's the hardest, too, because if you're a single mom and you got a bunch of kids and they're screaming all over the place, you got to get help. So I just think the most important thing for parents is to get enough rest in whatever fashion, whether it's recruiting, your family members, getting help. In our book, we promote a particular kind of meditation, transcendental meditation, which I think is a huge help for moms. It just restores you 20 minutes twice a day, which I know is precious 20 minutes, but it really rejuvenates the body and mind. And I think when a mom is well-rested, when her mind is clear, it's so much easier to be a good parent in that state.
That's a great tip because, even if your children are grown and you're a grandparent and you don't get enough rest, when you do get that rest, I know for me when I haven't had good rest in a couple of nights and then I get a great night's sleep, you get up and you're like a different person. You go, wow, I have so much energy. Yeah. I'm not dragging around. I will share this because you talk about transcendental meditation. There is a wonderful app called Calm, C-A-L-M. It's a blue square. If you go to the App Store, it's a wonderful app, and it has meditations for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes on every possible thing from stress to sleep to you name it. And I know, having raised my children, that 10 minutes you say, oh, I don't have time, I have to do the dishes, whatever it is. If you take that 10 minutes, if you can actually even go in the bathroom by yourself or in the room by yourself or your little one's in his or her crib, it makes such a difference to the rest of your day, I have to tell you. Anyway, and I don't have anything to do with the Calm. It's just that I happen to love this app. So any kind of breathing, right, and calmness.
Yeah, I like this one meditation. I've studied it all my life, and I like it just because it's like a switch. You do it, boom, you go into this really deep state of rest. It's so easy to do. So that's my preference, but everybody will have their own preference. And
you get used to it. I'm going to try yours. You know what? Whatever you do, if you make it a routine for yourself as well, not just your kids, and you get used to it, and I'm going to try the meditation that you have. It really makes you feel better. Good. I think you'll love it. It's just amazing when, like you said, it's like waking up fresh in the morning. The whole world looks different. It sure does look different, and it seems like you eat better, and you're not so tired. That 3 o'clock when you want chocolate doesn't happen so much. Before we talk some more, where can my listeners get your book and your website? The book is on Amazon, Noble. It's every bookstore. It's Penguin is the publisher, so it's all over the place. The website is just dharmaparenting.com.
So it's pretty much everywhere right now. Easy to get, no problem.
Okay, well, everybody needs to get this book and look at the book and take the test. Go to the website. It's a very cool website. And so I have a question. When you were doing this research and writing your book, did anything really surprise you more than something else?
Yeah, I think I wasn't aware of all the research that's done on parenting. I didn't know that, just thinking of myself, too, how, why do I have little quirks? Why do I need to be on time? And why can't, I relax in this instance and maybe get overexcited in this instance? I realized it's all based on the circuits that we develop when we're young. So whatever happens, I just think parenting is probably the most important thing we can do in the world. We can bring up kids that are happier and are, more fulfilled, their brain is more fully developed, then I think the world will be better, because these early circuits that are formed just absolutely influence every part of our life.
I'm happy you said that, too, because with all the technology, so many things have changed. And it's just amazing to me. You go into a kindergarten class and they have computers. We didn't have computers. Nobody even knows what a telephone booth is anymore. There was, or a lot of the things. And the technology, while we do need it because this is the way our world is, it doesn't take the place of learning who your child is and parenting them and enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, you see people, who are become very rich, and then they're so busy at their work, they don't have time for their children, and then they send them to school. They don't even know who the teachers are in the school. They don't know what the kids are doing in their activities. And what was the point of making all that money becoming so successful if your kids don't turn out happy and successful themselves? It turns out to be that's the most important thing in your life. In the end, you really care about your kids more than anything. And I think, we have to, attention it's one of the tools we have in Dharma parenting. The quality of attention is so critical for kids. And the more you can give it to them at any time in their life, whenever you can, that's just like gold for them. It just helps those circuits develop. It gives them inner confidence, inner stability. And they'll just be happier and better people for the rest of their lives.
And you know this too, because you have grown children. You don't realize how many memories you're creating, because when I know with my kids, we'll sit and go, remember when, and we'll laugh and we'll think about things we did.
I know.
Spending that time until you're a grandparent or a parent of a grown child, you'll look back and go, sometimes I went, wow, really? I didn't think you remembered that.
I know. No, it's amazing what you say and what you do, what a huge effect that has on their lives.
One more quick question, because we're coming to the end of the show. Do you think it makes a difference when you meditate?
Yeah, I think it's nice to meditate. With transcendental meditation, the way they set it up was you meditate early in the morning, which kind of is a lovely, quiet time, and, you're awake and you're just kind of soaking in that creative energy of nature. Yeah. Then in the evening, like just before, around 5 o'clock after work, it just kind of gives you a boost so that you can then kind of carry on for the rest of the evening. Those seem to me to be quite good times to do it, and they help you a lot.
You know what? Perfect tip for the end of the show, because especially if you work and you have to pick your little one up at preschool or, wherever, to take that time, just a few minutes, to kind of get yourself together and meditate, it makes such a big difference. And then you really are there for your kids.
Yeah.
Because you've cleared your mind to walk in and do, the 20 different things that you need to do. It's
right.
really tough. Just really tough.
That's true.
So on that note, I'm really calm from talking to you. It's been great to have you on the show. And just a little secret,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Keith is working on another wonderful book about the gut and about babies. And you know what? He said he'll come back, so I can't wait. Thank you so much for being on the show. You have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weather in Florida, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, what interesting information about our brains. I cannot wait to go take the test and have my daughter take the test for my grandson and for herself. I know I looked at it, and pretty interesting stuff, and it really makes me stop and think about my children and myself and why I do certain things. And, you know, it's very cool just to sit down and think about why do you do certain things. Anyway,
I've had non-parents read it and totally love it because it basically tells you about relationships too.
It's true. It's so true. So let me tell you, next week my guest, we have two guests because it will be the first week of February already. So Connie Grunning from peanutbutterandwine.com is going to be on and tell us what's hot and what's not in February with all her great contests. And the equally wonderful Danielle Linder, she will be talking about sending kinder kids to school. She has some great books. I can't wait to talk to her. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please contact me via my website, mybestparentingadvice.com, or you can always go to toginet.com, and they can find me. Also, I have all my podcasts on my website. Please go to Facebook, too. Like my pages, Baby Instructions, My Best Parenting Advice. I'm on Twitter under Advice Parent. I'm on Pinterest. I'm all over the place. I do Periscopes. I love doing my live videos on Facebook lately. I like to share some tips a couple times a week with you. You know, we don't always have time to sit down and read a book, although with my book you can go to audible.com. But, you know, the message is take some time with your little ones and take time for yourself, too, because when we don't take time for ourselves, then we are not in such a great mood either. So as I say each week, we all need to laugh at least once a day. So here's a little humor to end the show. As Single Baby Mama on Twitter says, the fun part of having a toddler in your 40s is that when you're laughing and jumping around at the park together, you both pee your pants. My nickname is Mom, but my full name is Mom, 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 Mom. Boy, patience is a virtue, isn't it? And finally, parent is a delicate balance of convincing your child they can do anything in life while simultaneously screaming, "Don't do that," every 3 minutes. Boy, isn't that the truth. You know what? You have to pick and choose when you say don't do that, and it's fun to watch your little ones blossom and grow. And yes, they're going to take chances and fall, but it's okay. So take a few minutes each day to get on the floor and play with them. They grow up so fast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.